Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of The Snake Pit. I'm your host, Son of Bat, and today I'll be talking about Dark Horse Comics issue 13. Dark Horse Comics, also known as DHC, is an anthology series, but most importantly, the second anthology series, or the sister anthology series to Dark Horse Presents, which I believe was started in 1986 or 1987. This run went from 1992 to 1994 with 25 issues, so it wasn't a super long run. It didn't get revitalized like Dark Horse Presents, but it was a really good run. It's kind of hard finding some of these issues. I only have a couple myself, but I really do love the ones I have. I've had them ever since I was a kid, and I think I've gotten them for about $1 a piece. So, not a bad deal. If I could find the rest one day, that'd be super sick. Dark Horse is one of my absolutely all-time favorite comic book companies. They released The Mask, which I fucking love. Pretty much every version they put out, except for like the DC crossover stuff, which is kind of like PG compared to the original OG run. They put out Sin City, which is fucking amazing. Great movie, great comic book series, just all around amazing. Alien versus Predator, The Thing, the OG Star Wars lore before Marvel and Disney fucked all that shit up. Terminator, fucking how could I forget Terminator? They put out some really great shit, and I believe RoboCop versus Terminator, which is an amazing series, again, that I hope to cover one day. But today we're going to be talking about the second anthology series, Dark Horse Comics, before I get too carried away. This specific issue has Alien Backsplash Part 2 of 2, Predator Bad Blood Part 2 of 3, and The Thing from Another World Questionable Research Part 1 of 4. So I figured, what the fuck, why not? This seems like a perfect comic to cover for the channel. Covers great sci-fi horror franchises, fucking Alien, Predator, and The Thing. How could you go wrong? I got this comic for $1 when I was a kid, and I remember, for the longest time, looking for other ones, specifically the ones that continue the storylines in this issue, because it's kind of a bummer reading the ending cap to the Alien story, the midway section to a Predator story, and the beginning of a Thing sequel, and not knowing how it turns out. It's bothered me for years. So, I jumped back into it, smoked some of the hashish, hit the Benjamin, got a little fried, and went down memory lane and read this comic. And fucking amazing. The gore, amazing. Another reason I love Dark Horse Comics. Out of all the ones I've had since I was a kid, they brought the gore. EC Comics, not very gory, great horror stories, but not that gory. This is on the level with some of those comics from the 1980s, like Twisted Tales in some respects, like Journey into Madness. It has like the horrific violence that you expect in these comics, and I believe a lot of them had for mature audiences only in the inside. So great stuff. We're off to a great start here. Alien Backsplash is pretty much a story about two dudes. I couldn't tell if they were like colonial marines or like mercenaries. I knew they weren't criminals because they definitely don't have like the prisoner outfits from Alien 3. They got pistols and grenades, kind of like bug exterminators for the xenomorphs, but they're in the middle of this brawl. They fucked a bunch of them up, and they're trying to get their ship to pull them out. You think they're going to make it. They fall down this hill into these weird clam-like spiked shells. They get fucked up. Xenomorph rips one guy on the ribs. And once they clasp onto the ship and try to open the airlock to get through, the xenomorph jumps up and it splits this guy's head with the small mouth, completely destroying his jaw. A pulpy fucking mess, super wild. And one guy gets away and the story ends. So I never knew why they were here, what the fuck's going on in the hive. I just saw the end of this battle. Really cool framework. The art, again, super amazing in these Dark Horse comics. But it's the ending, so I guess it's a spoiler to the story Backsplash. But that was Alien Backsplash 2 of 2, written by Jim Woodring, art by Killian Plunkett, letterer L.A. DeVille, colors by Matthew Hollingsworth, and story editor Ryder Windham. On to the second story, The Thing from Another World Questionable Research, Part 1 of 4. Now, I knew Dark Horse released an issue of The Thing, because I think in one of my other either Dark Horse or maybe even a Marvel comic, it was advertised somewhere that there was a series, The Thing from Another World, and I don't know if this story is from that one shot or if this is its own self-contained thing. See what I did there? But this story is basically a sequel to the original John Carpenter classic from 1981. The Kurt Russell dude, I can't remember his name right now, I'm super fried, but basically he's not in it. The outpost is completely burned out. A new research team goes in, and they're supposed to kill the remaining specimens they can find, or any that they can bring back, seal that shit up and bring it back. Although I don't know why they'd want to do that, because, in the movie The Thing, for those of you who don't know, it's basically kind of like a virus. It's an alien, but it's like a virus in the sense that if it hits like mainland, it will spread to everyone and just destroy the whole world population in a matter of weeks. Yeah, well, I guess, it makes sense because this research team doesn't know that, but still, it's kind of fucked that they're taking it out of the Arctic. There's a lot of conversation and build up to what's going to happen, because this is part 1 of 4. So all we really get to see is this one piece that thaws out, kind of just runs off like a little shrimp, and it infects a rat. And the rat runs up to a person on this boat after, the helicopter lands and is about to go to the mainland. And the person looks at the rat, kicks it away, and it opens up, kind of looking like the sled dogs from the first movie, and then it just ends, which sucks because it's always bothered me. I want to know where this story goes. I want to know if it hits the mainland and kills a bunch of people. This seems like a really wild story. There's not a lot of Thing material. I believe there's this comic series by Dark Horse. Again, I can't clarify if this part 4 series is the same as the one shot they put out. There's the video game on the Xbox original, which is amazing. Again, that is another sequel to the original movie. And then there's the 2011 semi-prequel thing, reboot, whatever you want to call it, which was okay, but they fucked with it too hard and it turned out into somewhat of a shit show. And then there's a comic that actually came out, I believe, again by Dark Horse when that movie came out, which takes place even further back, which serves as another prequel, but I believe in the Nordic, like Viking times. Super cool. If I ever find any of those, I will definitely review them. But this brings us to, The Thing from Another World, Questionable Research, part 1 of 4 again, written by Edward Martin III, penciled by Ted Naif, inked by W. Moose Bauman, letterer Clem Robbins, and colors by Ray Murtaugh. Sorry if I butchered those names. But this brings us on to Predator Bad Blood Part 2 of 3. This is a very cool action-packed story, but it's a very one-sided fight. It's basically Predator slaughtering a bunch of weekend warriors at a paintball range. And I don't know where part 1 went with this and how he got to like this area. It's in a jungle, so maybe he actually dealt with some real danger, or his ship crashed and then he got to this, and then it's going to go to somewhere even crazier. But I never knew the beginning or end of this story. All I saw was Predator just fucking up all these guys playing paintball. There's a dude with a paintball minigun, but he doesn't stand a chance. I think he just basically wets up the Predator and makes him invisible. Predator does his typical shit. He like takes voice clips from people around the area and he kind of uses it to draw people out, or even at one point scare the shit out of it, like the referee. But there's this really cool panel where there's a guy smoking his cigarette and he's like, wait, did you hear that? And then it's like 3 panels where it's one where he's taking a drag off the dart, and then the second one, like a line shows up on his neck, fingers in the cigarette, and then the third panel, everything just falls like he fucking sliced and cut. There's a geyser of blood everywhere. Super violent, super sick, and it pretty much ends after these guys all get slaughtered. The referee's the only one left, and he's like left there shitting himself in front of Predator standing over him, covered in paint and blood, just saying things that the dude said before they fucking died and shit. And it's like super crazy. And I always wondered where that story would go. Like, obviously, like, law enforcement or even the military probably found out about this and maybe it left off into like a huge fucking standoff. Who knows? Hopefully one day I'll find the beginning and end to these stories, because I really want to see where they go. The Thing comic specifically, because I do love that movie and the concept of it. Alien and Predator, like, there's a bunch of those comics, so I'm not really missing too much, but it would be cool to finish the stories. Dark Horse, I've been giving them praise this whole episode, but I really do love the Alien and Predator comics to a point where I actually like the comics a little bit more than the movies. I'll get into more of that some other point when I cover the Alien and Predator movies. Not saying I don't like those. I really do like those movies. Predator's kind of got a more shitty reputation. I like the first 2. The third one's okay, but the rest, Prey was all right. But I'm droning, so I'll save y'all from that. But this comic, it's super cool, like super dark, like Dark Horse always does. I love it. There's some really cool advertisements for other Dark Horse stories. There's also the column section where people write in, ads for Star Wars, ads for fucking... Apparently they did a Universal Monsters line, so I'm seeing like an advertisement for Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Dracula, The Mummy. Those all look pretty cool. Would love to see what those look like. Super cool. Sometimes I think I was born in the wrong time. I wish I was my age now in the 90s when these were a lot more accessible. But you know, it's cool. Like, if you like anthology comics, if you want to just, rip the Benjamin, rip the bong, whatever you want to do and read some comics, these are great because you can just flip through them. You get a little taste, a little sample of what Dark Horse was putting out at the time. And if you really, really, really want to, like, finish these like stories or find these like series, there's the graphic novels they put out. The omnibus series Dark Horse did for Alien, Predator, and Terminator are fucking amazing. The Mask one ran out of print. I remember trying to find those for a long time. They were going for stupid crazy money, but then they re-released it, which was fucking dope because The Mask, and I hope to cover that at some point, was actually supposed to be a horror movie. When New Line Cinema acquired the rights to do The Mask, they kind of had a Nightmare on Elm Street type movie in mind, but more on the action side, and that would have been crazy because the comic is super violent, super bloody, super dark, super twisted, and fucking hilarious. Unfortunately, fortunately, because The Mask is a classic, but unfortunately, it kind of turned into a family rom-com movie. Some elements from the original story were retained in it, but you'd only know that if you read the comic. Another great one they did was Frank Miller's Sin City. Not a horror comic again, but a really horrific one at times, like noir crime. Super cool. If you've seen the movie, you'll fucking definitely know what's going on in here. But it's interesting because they took different elements from different parts of the comics and made a movie out of that. And they kind of did that with A Dame to Kill For. Still pretty cool. Love Sin City. Totally forgot to give out the shout outs to the people who did Predator Bad Blood. Script by Evan Dorkin, pencils by Derek Thompson, inks by Andre Parks, letterer Pat Brosau, colors by Robbie Bush, and story editor Chris Warner. Shouts out to them for making a sick middle entry to this dope story I hope to finish one day. But yeah, again, I'm going to say it. I said it before and I'll say it again because I'm super fried, but I've been praising the shit out of them. Dark Horse, amazing company. If you guys can get a hold of, their single issues, I highly recommend them. You will not be disappointed. If you can get a hold of their graphic novels or the omnibus series, check them out. They are so fucking worth the money and worth the time. If you can find them online, that's another alternative you can check out too. Super dope stuff. Can't praise it enough. Hope to cover more Dark Horse stuff eventually. But yeah, if you guys like this episode, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. If you got your favorite Dark Horse story, write it down in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good one. Peace.